Buddy go? Hey, Buddy. Unmute yourself for a second.
Okay, is that better?
Lyle said that you could go ahead and put up your report. I could share the screen with you so you could do that. Since it might be easier for you to control it better when you're talking.
Okay,
Actually, the only PDF I had was the one that you had stamped as draft. So I didn't know if you made any minor changes to the bound copy that you dropped off a couple weeks ago.
okay, I can share that.
Yeah, I think that would be the best thing to do.
See if I can get it up. You see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Lyle, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I was just thinking, is there some way that I can make this full screen on this presentation, or is that big enough for everybody?
You see everyone participating, or just what you're wanting to share?
Well, of course, what I'm trying to share is probably the most important, but I'd like for everybody to see it as big as we can.
No, I'm not familiar with that, buddy, honestly.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing all of your screen, Buddy.
Okay.
And I don't think we can change that because it's your screen.
All right, let me see. If I can,
But you know, we can, by going to the view, you can make the people on the call on the right hand side, make them very small. It makes Buddy's presentation larger. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't make the page any larger. I mean, it makes the page larger, but it doesn't make the. And I can, when you go to view,
might go full screen.
Yeah, and go side by side gallery or whatever else, or side by
Yeah,
side.
that does help.
You can do that. That helps a bit.
I don't think that's going to do it.
We choose standard, it makes it bigger on our screen.
Buddy, what's the concern? I think we all have our handout with us, and we can follow you with the handout if nothing else. So
yeah, that's better. Whatever you did was better, Buddy. That's good.
Do without the camera if you want, just so I got the audio.
That's not changing.
I can read it all fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've got to get to where I can make changes though.
Bob Weagle's gone back to college. He's gone back to Rhodes. I knew he liked Memphis.
I'm gonna have to get out of this and start back over, I think.
Okay.
Buddy, if you're more comfortable with me running it, and if you just want to tell me next page, I'll be glad to do
You
it.
know, that may be the best way to do it. I've got it on, yeah, that might be the best way. Like I said, I've got it on Excel, but it's not what you guys are looking at. So Bob, why don't you do it and make it as kind of as, I mean, Lyle, if you could make it as big as you think you can make it, that's good. Okay, that's good. If there, I don't think there's anything different from the draft.
Okay, that's
So
fine then.
just go with that. And Lyle, if you want to just scroll down to the first page, we can start there. All right, so what we have here is you're going to see two analyses going through this. One is the cash flow. And a cash flow is something that looks very much like a cash budget. Money coming in, money going out, how much money you got to the end of the year. And the other one is the change in net position analysis. And this may be a little terminology, maybe a little bit new to you, but it's found in your audit, and it's really more important than what's happening with your cash. It's the one that actually sets the rate, not necessarily cash. Okay, go on down to the next part. And this is just some what I call significant events or factors going through this. There's been a decline in usage and revenue since 2017. Now, why that's happening, don't really know. There could be a number of things. It could be that that Metro has not changed out their water meters. Of course, your sewer rate is based on water, your water metered. And if it's old meters, that could have an impact. The other thing is could be related to rainfall, or just simply could be related to people using water conserving devices, and that could have an impact also. The other thing is you're starting in a capital improvement program, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. And then, of course, you haven't raised rates since 2017. So basically what we're proposing is a 10% beginning July, and then a 2% per year after that. And I'll mention that, I'll speak on that just a little bit more in a minute. Going down to the next one.
Buddy, let me interrupt just for a second. Lyle, are you recording this?
Yes.
Okay, because we were told we were going to invite the budget and finance people, and this way they can watch it on the replay.
Yes, it'll be on YouTube later today.
Gotcha. Thanks. Sorry, buddy.
That's all right. So growth and projection, this is very important when it comes to looking at revenue. Really, the only way that you're going to get additional revenue is to hook on more customers. And you can see you haven't grown much in the past, and not really expecting to grow very much over the next 5 years. About 5 customers per year. And that's about 5% change. Now, the way that you get your revenue from Metro, they read the bills, and then they subtract out their portion and then send you the rest of it. And that's your revenue. They do take 10% administrative fees, which shows up there. So go on down, you see that you're dropping in revenue. And this is just a graph showing that drop in revenue. Again, we don't know exactly what's causing that. My best guess would be it's probably old meters, because it just seems like it's continuing to drop. On top of that, you've got Metro increasing their rates to you each year. And you can see their increases, 1.5%, 2.2, 0.7, and 1.4. Average is about 1.5% per year. I mean, they're increasing theirs that much each year. Now that's based on the Consumer Price Index Urban. Every 5 years, they recalculate their whole rate system, and then it starts over again. Now, when they recalculate, it may be more, it could be less. It's just kind of depend on what's happened or what's going on with Metro at that time of how that would impact you. But going forward from a year-to-year basis, it's based on that Consumer Price Index Urban. Now, keep in mind, they're going up and you're not. So, you know, there's a little bit of disconnect right there. You also have some other income coming in, you know, from sewer permits, installation charges, sewer tap fees, and just some miscellaneous. Any questions about the Metro rate increases?
This is
Ray,
about-
does the Metro water rate have anything to do with this, what they charge us for water?
Yes, Metro Metro reads the meters, and they actually own the water system. You own the sewer system, they own the water system, and the water rates are totally separated from sewer rates.
Well, the reason I asked that is we've seen such a wide range of water bills this past year. They've been all over the place. People are paying $1,000 a month for water, and we just want to make sure that you're aware that we're doing that. That's something that we can't control, obviously. But
Right.
we didn't know what was making Metro Water do all that crazy. It looked like crazy pricing to us.
Well, they did go up quite a bit. I think it was like 2 years ago. They had a major. They also had a rate increase, a big rate study, and that's what's created the higher water rates anyway.
But this doesn't affect what we're talking about today.
It does not. It does not. Totally separate. Okay, go down. The capital improvement program. If you'll scoot. Yeah, there you go.
There.
Okay, you can go down just a little bit more so you can see the chart. Okay. Yeah, you're getting ready to go into something that you haven't quite done before. And that's what this capital improvement project is all about. Your system is almost 40 years old, and we'll talk about that again in a little bit. But over the years, over 40 years, things have changed. Some things have changed anyway, and the sewer system is needing some improvements. I think, Beth, correct me if I'm wrong here, but you're having an analysis of the sewer system to determine how it can better operate, how you can get more capacity. And in doing so, you're going to be adding some more lines, or maybe paralleling lines, or maybe pulling lines up and putting some new ones in place. That's a big big program, and instead of doing it all at once, we're showing it $200,000 each year. Now to pay for that, you've got in place this local government is that-
Investment pool.
investment pool, thank you, investment pool. That's where that is going to primarily be paid for, but you will also have to pay some of that with cash. And we'll look at this and see how that impacts your cash on the cash flow. The other annual capital expenses, we're showing at $155,000, and that's to pay for things like pumps, maybe controls, capital items that you need for the operation of your current system. Now I've got below that previous annual capital expenses from previous years, and the average of that is 132,000. So we're thinking 155,000 is a good number going forward. How much money that you're going to spend on capital expenses on an annual basis. Any questions about this?
So historically, what's the maintenance CapEx been? I mean, what's the historical number on this?
Well, that line down there says previous annual capital expenses. Now this is a capital expense is something that is bought like a pump or like a control that has a life to it. And that's the capital expense. Now maintenance is that's something different. You know, if you got a line that you have to go fix, you know, that's a maintenance expense and not a capital expense. And the reason that we're showing the capital expense here is that although it's going to cost money to do this, but it's also going to increase your depreciation. All capital expenses are depreciated, and maintenance expenses are not. I'm not sure if that answered your question, but
I mean, but historically, is there a base level of maintenance CapEx? I'm saying, what's the minimum? What's the amount we budgeted historically for maintenance?
okay, we're getting to that just a little bit.
Okay, okay.
Any other questions on the capital expenses? Okay, going down. All right, this is how we look at depreciation. That capital project, those lines that's going in, we're going to assume they have a life of 40 years, probably more than that, but I feel like that your auditor and your folks there, we felt like that 40 years is probably the best. And in the way that that's calculated, you just take those capital expenses and divide it by that life. The annual capital expenses, that 8 years, that's about how long a pump will last. Of course, you've got some other controls and things like vehicles is also a capital expense, and they too are about an 8 year. So you can see that your depreciation is increasing up to $146,000. Go on down because I do have another depreciation chart. Now, you don't see this very often, but I mentioned that your sewer system was put in around 1983, and it's coming up on its 40-year anniversary. That means that some of this system is going to be totally depleted or depreciated. As you'll see that the scheduled depreciation drops from a high of 130, well, actually 145, but down to 54,000. that's going to help you a lot because depreciation is an expense. Now it's just a paper expense. Depreciation is not paid out to anybody. You have to fund it though with revenue. But you can see, although you're dropping in the scheduled depreciation, you're adding new depreciation to that. Any questions about this? Okay, go on to the next. We'll come back to depreciation after a while. General expenses, go on down to the next part of this. And these are all of your general expenses, basically taking this from the your trial balance at the end of the year. You can see it's kind of gone up and down and back up. A lot of that, the biggest items on here is chemicals and repair and maintenance. And here's where you know, the repair and maintenance that you were asking about. This is kind of where we stuck it in there. And we're, you know, your 2020 was a little bit high based on the other years. We settled at about $50,000 for the current year, and then going forward at about 5%. Of course, the salaries, another big expense, but your biggest here is really your repair and maintenance, which you don't have a lot of control over that. And neither do your chemicals. Chemical prices go up, they don't go down. As you see, we're anticipating a pretty good spike at the end of this year. Through this year, we were looking at, I think, maybe 8 months or maybe 9 months of data when we looked at this, projecting it out, and that's just what's going to happen with chemical prices. Any questions about repair and maintenance on this and the or any other general expenses? Okay. Going down. The cash flow, you can go on down. I can explain everything better just looking at this cash flow chart. This is kind of like a budget. You'll see in 2017, you began with $125,000. You had your revenue coming in, other income coming in. So you had total income there, and then your expenses, general expenses. And you had basically income, your less expenses over $423,000. Capital improvements. That's those improvements that pumps and controls and things such as that. So your net gain there is $112,000. Going on down, I've got showing a reconciliation here now. I'm sorry. Back up on the yeah. I just explained a little bit more with this. You're on an accrual basis. Your audit is and you operate on an accrual basis, but this is a cash flow. So to turn it back into a cash basis, I do this. It's a reconciliation, and these numbers are in your audit. So I come up with the amount of cash ending. So like in 2017, you started out with 125,000. You ended up with 433,000, and with this local government transfer there is you're putting money into that investment pool, which gives you a cash available. You're showing some interest in there, and then the accumulated local government investment pool. That at the end of your your available cash there, you've got, that can also be operation. You can also pay for stuff with that. So you'll see it going across the board there in 2025 projected out. You're seeing some negative numbers, those red numbers. That's a loss. You're just not, and primarily it's because of that $355,000 in capital expense. We're using $200,000 a year from the investment pool to pay for at least some of the capital improvements, but you're running low on your investment pool money, so we have to stop that. But still, with total cash, you're well over $1 million. Now you can go on down to the next slide if you can see it better. So this is what kind of a picture of what all that looks like over there. You've got the blue line, which is your income. The reddish line is the general expenses, and you'll see the trend lines there. They're kind of converging. You'll also see that your cash line is increasing, but after you deplete the investment pool, you're starting to pay more of your cash, and that line is dropping. Okay. Next one. Changing that position. Going down to the chart, I think I can explain it better with the chart. Changing that position is somewhat similar to, uses some of the same data and information as the cash flow. However, it does have in there a line called the depreciation, and it is a substantial amount. And when you add that in there, it's got to be, you've got to fund it. The last line down there is a change in that position. You know, you've got your operating revenue, you've got the expenses, subtract that, you can add a little bit of interest, but the change in that, the mathematical results of all of that is called the change in that position. As you'll see in 2023, that's a negative. Even in 2022, we're projecting, you know, quite a bit low there. It's not zero or not negative. There is a state law that basically states that if you have 2 years or 2 consecutive years of negative change in that position, then you're in violation of state law, and you're having to deal with the comptroller, the state comptroller's office. I was there this morning. They had a meeting of the Water and Wastewater Financing Board meeting, and there was probably a dozen or more cities that are having to deal with the comptroller's office because of this change in that position.
Were these new enterprise funds that you're talking about that have problems?
They're all enterprise funds, yes.
I know. Are these new ones? Are these anything older?
Older. They're older ones.
Okay.
Yeah. You're one of the few newer ones.
Okay.
But most of them are old. But you'll see there that this is what we're trying. It's not your cash flow. Your cash flow looks very strong. It's this change in that position that we've got to work to improve, and that's where this 10% increase comes from. Is basically you take care of that minus 30,000. The 2%, you know, Metro is going up on an average of 0.5%, and that's not a given. They could go up 2%. or more. That's why I am encouraging you to implement a 2% per year, just to keep up with Metro. You know, those converging lines there need to be at least parallel or maybe divergent a little bit.
This is Bob. Buddy, I met you about 5 years ago.
Sure, I remember, Bob.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
I can never forget Bob.
Let me ask you about that second bar graph. And we were talking about going 2 years in a row. You don't want it. And aren't we doing that in 25 and 26, sir? Aren't we going down 2 years in a row?
Hey, Bob, I'll tell you what happened, what's helping you there in 25 and 26. It's your change. I mean, it's your depreciation. You remember, you know, your original sewer system, most of that is being depreciated. So that is an expense that's coming off. So you see in that depreciation line up there, in 2023, it's 292. In 2024, it's $100,000 less. So you're getting help from there, but you can tell from 2017 down to 2020 anyway, which is the last audited numbers. It's just got a downward. It's just going downward there. So that's why we're needing to make this increase. I mean, your whole increase is on this sheet right here. This is the reason why you're having to make this increase. And I know it's difficult to explain to somebody that your change in net position is going to zero when most of the people don't have a clue what change in net position is. But it's a state law, just like any other state law, and you've got to deal with it.
While I got your attention, let me ask you, why, when you looked at the last 5 years, real figures, were there any surprises to you based on what you recommended 5 years ago and what
Yeah.
transpired?
Bob, not a lot. I actually went back and picked up, what we were projecting back then compared to the 2020 audit, which you got. And I'd say that we were fairly close, probably within 10% on a lot of stuff. And obviously, projecting out is the key. And that was like a 5-year projection. And I would hope this would take you another 5 years anyway. You'll see, I'm going to put those numbers in there so you can see how that impacts this change in that position.
Buddy, I'm glad Bob asked that question, because we were recently criticized by commissioners, the two old commissioners, Bob and myself, for why did we let this happen? And I think that we let it happen because that's what you said, and we really are not in bad shape. The cash position is fine. It's just the net position analysis where we got the problem.
That's right. And we had when we did this last time, it was a 5-year projection, and we set the rate. We only had one increase, and it was the last 5 years. Well, it has lasted about 5 years, and to basically aid you, giving you a better recommendation this time, not only with the 10%, but also I think you need a little bit of increase along the way, because I'm seeing that, the historical increases that Metro's doing, and you're not growing a lot. So, you got to get new revenue in some way to match those Metro increases. Blame it on Metro.
Well, we like to do that, but based upon, if upon a simple financial analysis, and people don't understand this, would say, why do you need a rate increase? Why you need an increase? Because you got tons of cash, or cash flow is good and everything else. It's because of the net position
Yes,
that we have to maintain.
yes.
Well, I think Bob and I felt like we were getting shot at and criticized by the commissioners because we had not done an adequate job of keeping up with this. And I think that what you're explaining now is that this has worked out just what we thought it was going to, basically.
Yes, I think that's, when you do a 5-year projection, you hope it will take you 5 years without having to raise rates. The other alternative of going 10 and then 2%, so you might want to look at a higher one-time rate increase. But I still think the little bites at 2% is not going to. They're not going to notice that.
Now, that's what does that mean in terms of real dollars to a sewer bill?
Well, scroll on down. I've got the 10% in there.
Sorry about that. I didn't want to bounce
That's
around,
right.
but I think that's a question that we're all going to have.
Yeah, this is the cash flow with that 10% and the 2% is going across, and then go on down to the next page. The income line is not going down as much. Obviously, the revenue or the expense line is going to continue. It's going to stay like it is, but that does raise that revenue line, total income line up a little bit, and obviously it gives you a lot more cash. Now that's cash that you can use to spend on your system, and also you can get some interest off of that. You put it back in the investment pool and let it grow. Okay, go on down, but that's the cash flow. And here's the change net position with that, and you see all the, there's no red numbers there, and it gets you back up. Go on down to the other chart there. Okay, and you can see that what it does, it pulls you back up, but it's going back down, hopefully at a slower rate than it did the first few years. But that's because that you're bringing in money each year. It's not going to drop down as much. But if you just, if you throw money at it at the first year, that 10%, and say, let's don't do anything else, you're not going to see a lot of increase in revenue, but the expenses is going to catch up to you, which changes that chart a lot. So if you'll look on down where you got the wastewater rates, that what this is 10% does, you're in cubic feet. So somebody using 600 cubic feet, they're going to see on a monthly basis $4.30. If it's 800 cubic feet, closer to $5. 1,000 cubic feet, they're $5.50. I would say, the range is going to be probably a low of 600, maybe a high of 1,000, or maybe a little bit more if you got sprinkler systems. But even 5,000, you're looking at $16.88 a month. Okay.
Buddy, knowing the fact that Metro is the X factor in this thing, you think we're adding enough at 2%?
I think that's something that you can watch. Now, when you get your annual audit, it's going to have a page in there and it's called the Statement of Revenue, Expenses, and Changes in Net Position. That's the sheet in there, and you look at your change in net position on that sheet, kind of compare it to where you are, and that I think you can probably tell from year to year, if you're in line with what we're talking about here. If that change in that position goes above or below a certain amount, or maybe below a certain amount, instead of a 2%, it might need to be a 3%. Now, if you're way above, and let's use $50,000 there, you were in 2020, you can look in there now and see what it is. And Beth, I'm not sure if you could do this on a monthly basis, but certainly on an annual basis, you can kind of go from year to year of whether you need to do that. But I would look at that change in that position and maybe say, set it at I really think a good number for Bellmead is $100,000 as far as changing that position. You don't want to drop down. I mean, you can have a big sewer line break out there and spend $100,000 fixing it. You don't want to get in that situation. You do want some buffer in there. So I think that's good. That's why we kind of looked at that 10% to get you up at that level and kind of hanging around that level, hopefully even out to 2026. And at that time, you might want to do another rate study, but it is a change in that position that you need to look at pretty closely. I'd say yeah.
Let me ask a couple of questions. Beth and Lee, what do we have to do legally to make this this percent increase? Anything with the citizens, the residents, other than just notification?
Just notification, and then it would probably be, I believe, an ordinance. I'm not sure if it's an ordinance or resolution, either one, to pass the rate increase. And I would just do it annually rather than the whole 5-year term, because there may be an adjustment down the road that we want to make in the percentage increase.
Would you try to do this with the new fiscal year coming up? Does that make sense to do it on a fiscal year basis?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
That's another question, Buddy. We are talking about calendar year numbers that you're putting up here. It's not fiscal year, am I correct?
Yes, everything in here is fiscal year.
Fiscal year.
Yes,
Good.
everything in here is fiscal year.
Let me ask another question. We got one of our budget and finance people on here. And Tom, I wish if you didn't want to answer this, you shouldn't have put your name up there, but I want to ask your question. With your background, is this what Buddy's gone through? Is this understandable to you? And how do we, and what's your opinion? You need to unmute, so unless you just don't want to talk to her.
He may not be on right now.
I saw him back and forth when he had his video on. He
Yeah.
may not be. He may have heard all he wanted to hear. Okay, well, I mean, is it something that if a citizen wanted to, get in here and do a deep dive on this, I'm not capable of answering the questions. But I would hope that the increases are small enough where we're not going to see much resistance. Let's just say that. Anybody want to jump in on that?
I also am not qualified to answer the questions, mainly about the net position.
Yeah, that's what kind of bugs me, because that just seems out of the ordinary for financial statements that we're used to looking at. That's just kind of a new one in there that we have to. It's a rule that we have to abide by. Louise, what do you think about the effect of this increase on a typical resident? Do you think it's minimal?
Well, I think so on page 17 of the rate study, it says the city should monitor the change in net position annually and take appropriate action for any unforeseen changes in income and expenses. But I think that if we know what Metro's rate is, we have to respond to that annually instead of setting it every 5 years. And my only comment at the earlier meeting was that just to understand that Metro can continue to increase their share of this, but we have to respond, I think, on an annual basis, not on a 5-year basis.
Buddy, what do you think about that?
Well, I think that's a real good idea that, you know, you could probably track the consumer price index urban like Metro, or when you get notified by Metro. I think you're notified by Metro in either September or October about that. Is that right, Beth? Or
I think that's correct, yes.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think that would be a good.
So rather than going to with the 2%, it might be 2.3% or something like that.
Right. I would just, you know, let the residents know that
CPI, we're CPI in this. Okay.
that you're going to have an annual increase to match the Metro increases.
Okay.
I think that's very wise.
Haley, you got any questions? I see you signed on.
No, I just wonder, we don't really have to say we're gonna raise it every year if Metro, I mean, we could just phrase it as, you can't make a promise of 5 years, you just raise it as needed, right?
I think we should just
I mean,
track what Metro's
right.
reimbursement is.
Right.
But
Yes.
you think,
Yes.
but you need that 2% in there regardless, and take the CPI out in addition to the 2%. Is that correct, buddy?
Actually, the 2% would kind of is there to match the Metro. Hopefully, it's a little bit more, but that's not a guarantee.
Okay. All right, so we really, rather than 2%, it would be whatever Metro is then. It might be.
I think that would go along. Yes, that would work.
But if Metro's is 1 point, it's only 1.8, we should make ours 1.8 then.
Yeah.
It just, to me, it just seems like basically it's just a victim of circumstance. It's inconvenient timing when the rate comes out because we will have just approved the budget 2 months earlier.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a communication thing. Personally, it's just like that would actually seems like it's this year, but that rate was actually based on last year or however we would need to do that. But I mean,
Okay, well, we're not going to decide that today, but I think that's something
yeah.
we can, it's good information. We need to decide how we set that. I kind of like the idea of knowing in advance of what we're going to do. I'd rather just go ahead and say Buddy's example and see if that would work. And if it's not, we can track it every year and see if we're okay, but then not necessarily make price increases every year. I mean, make the increases, but the ones we had planned on making, the 2%. Anyway, that's up for a later decision, but I just want to make sure everybody understands this. It is hard to understand this net position Buddy, could we ever get city ever get their money that they put into this plan back, or is that just unrealistic?
You mean from the very beginning?
Yeah, on the first year.
Yeah, I don't.
I don't either.
There are cities, and I'd say a good number of cities has a transfer to the general fund each year.
Huh.
And it's called a pilot, payment in lieu of taxes. And the way that this happens is that a lot of your lines is in within city right of way. In other words, the city is basically allowing the sewer system
Thank you.
to, you know, use that right of way or easements or whatever it is. And in lieu of taxing that, and there is a formula that determines that. MTS could probably tell you what that formula is, but yes, more cities than not has a transfer from their sewer system or water system to the general fund.
Well, we certainly don't need that. We never know what's going to happen down the road either. So
Mhm.
it's good to know. Beth, you're aware that we could that about this transfer.
Yeah, I had forgotten that, but when Buddy started mentioning it, I did remember that. So you're kind of just taxing your utility and getting revenue from the utility that way. And maybe someday we'll have enough money in the utility that the general fund can do that, but we'll do it right now.
Yeah, you're changing that position needs to be a little stronger.
True.
You don't need
I
to.
understood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll go on down to the closer to that page there. This is just kind of a comparison with other utilities around. You're still on the low end. And I'd say most of these are, you know, they're raising rates at different times also from year to year.
Lee and Lyle will eventually be preparing this with budget with Larry. That's one of the input things that you're going to have to make sure that everybody's reminded of that we include that in the budget, so that doesn't slip up on people.
Well, if you go down one more page and go up to the first part of it, this is the state law, Tennessee Code Annotated. It's in that first paragraph there, and within, you know, like on the third line there, you know, it says, you know, this is what kind of problems if you have. It has a negative change in that position for 2 consecutive years. There's a couple other things in there, but that's the law that we're having to bump up against here. It's not just a policy or something that the comptroller is recommending. It's not a recommendation, it's law. You didn't have this problem when it was not an enterprise.
Right.
I mean, looking at that figure 19, I noticed we're in a lower 25%, 33%, whatever. And our vice mayor, Rusty, you know, thinks that, you know, we're a high-end piece of real estate in the greater Nashville area, and our prices ought to reflect that. Should we entertain going up on our costs of 800 cubic feet in comparison? Should we go up another notch to, you know, we're even below Metro.
Yeah, I think that 800 cubic feet, that's pretty high. If you want to, you know, that I'd say for an average customer, that's probably on the high end. Now you'll obviously have people way over that. You'll have some way under that, but I would think that 800 is fairly average. Now, if you go back all the way kind of to the first of it, one of the first charts. Okay, well, go back up one. That's it right there. that water bought by customers, that's 12.9 million gallons. And then I've got under that the average use per customer per month in CCF, 100 cubic feet. That's 10.2, 10.1. That's going down. You know, it's just kind of that strange thing that's going on. But around 900, you know, I was showing 800. That includes your churches, yes, the golf course, other, you know, others than just typical residents. So that's kind of, I didn't have enough information to break out the typical residents. Larry, you may have an idea of what a typical resident uses out there.
It varies so much. I have some residents only have a $30 bill, and I have others that have 300 to 1,000. It just varies by the home size and by whether we have. Some people leave, and so it varies every time. But yeah, we do. I mean, I looked at it. The last one we got. I mean, they averaged in $800 to $80 to $100 in your median. That gives you any idea. But there was some that was $33, and then there was others almost had $1,000 bills. Did you hear me, buddy?
Yes, thanks.
I have a question. Is there any chance, I know that a lot of people are doing building updates and things like that, like our new plumbing fixtures, like things for showers or sink faucets, like maybe increasing in efficiency of water usage, and maybe that could explain some of the decrease in usage of.
I think it could explain some of it. I'm not sure it explains all of it. And again, this is just my best guess on this. Water meters will typically run slower and not be as accurate the older they get. They should be changed out about every 10 to 12 years. And I don't know how often Metro is changing their water meters. So to me, that may be the culprit for your.
Okay, and then so hypothetically, just wondering if Metro does come in and decide it is time to replace all of our meters, like what that could, we don't know, but that could significantly change what your best guess would be at that point, because you would be working with different information. Is that
Right?
Did I explain that right to myself? Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
That's right, because it looks like it's you're losing anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000, maybe maybe even $20,000 a year based on that. I mean, that's not a lot of money, but every little bit helps.
Thank you.
That's all that I have as far as the this presentation. Certainly, I'll be available at any time. I think if one of them was looking at it from a financial standpoint, please have them call me. Was it Tom? Be more than happy to discuss this individually with anybody, or if you want to have another Zoom type meeting, we can do that also.
Buddy, this is Bob. Looking at all the numbers that you do and every day all over the state, is there anything about Belmead that you're concerned about being out of the out of the areas that, out of the parameters that you think it should be in, or is there anything that you might be recommending to us to check on, or I'm just looking for your expertise right now. Is there anything that you might recommend to us? Check.
Yeah, to me, I think the city is doing a very, very good job. And there's a couple of areas that kind of jumps out at me. And when I came into this thing, I wasn't really anticipating what you're doing with the sewer system in trying to optimize the sewer system. And that could help possibly with this chemical problem. What I'm kind of gravitate to is the big numbers. And the big number on your expenses is chemicals. So hopefully, this, when you're looking at your system and how it's changed and how you can optimize it and get more use out of what you've got. To me, that's what you're doing good. If you weren't already doing that, I would say you got a problem, with so much chemical use.
Is there a new mousetrap in this business that we need to explore as far as a different grade of chemical? Or I don't know. I'm not an expert. Certainly not an expert.
Is that the potassium permanganate that we pay for every month?
Yes, sir. And
Okay.
it's when we do fill those tanks multiple times a year. Yeah, it will decrease, but it will not. We're always going to have that cost because we have a sealed collection system. And Buddy, correct me if I'm not wrong. And because it's a sealed system, we can cut it a little bit, but we will never be able to cut the chemical cost completely because the sewer sits in them force mains and creates sulfides. And because we have a system that doesn't have infiltration, we're not mixing water with it like Metro and a lot of other people's. We have almost zero infiltration. So our sulfide levels are higher than a lot of cities and a lot of places. So
Does that mean our system smells bad?
yes, sir. It's sulfides from the.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought it meant.
And that's what Metro dings us for the sulfides, and we have to bring them down to the acceptable level, and it takes these chemicals to do that. We're still gonna have those costs. We can bring it down a little bit. I see that working more the lines and stuff, working on lowering pump replacements, pump costs, not as much from the chemical standpoint. We're gonna always have that issue. There are other chemicals that are out there. The research we've seen, Odifos is one. There's trying to think of the other, and there's one that was very volatile that they wanted us to use to begin with, and it was going to take hazmat suits and all that, and that's the reason we switched to the potassium permanganate for our safety. And these are underground tanks with containment systems, and the state is really picky about what you put in the ground. And if we have a break or a leak, and we can't have something that's going to kill fish or kill wildlife. So the potassium right now is the best bang for our buck in what it does. And we use caustic soda in combination with that. But right now, I really don't see a chemical price. The chemical usage going down. I do see maybe we can get a reduction in pump repairs, pump cost, in the pressures of the mains in the future. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. Beth and Buddy, are any of the satellite cities on closed systems? Do y'all know?
No.
I don't think so.
I'll-
Several of them don't have, Metro is their system.
Yeah.
They don't have their own.
Well, Mount Juliet may be close, but they've got a good portion of theirs on pressure sewer, but most of it now is gravity. I'd
Well,
say
it's like Forest Hills, are they gravity? But they have to have some pumps somewhere, don't they? To get it into
most
the,
systems do have some pumps, yes. Even if it's gravity, most of them have some pumps.
okay. And is there a rate that they would pay that would be similar to what we're paying? That I know it's calculated different how they're looked at, but that's part of their water bill. I mean, direct part of their water bill, right?
Well, when it comes to satellite cities and their rates versus your rates, most of the satellite cities are booming. I'm doing a rate study for Mount Juliet, and they're estimating 500 new customers a year. I mean, that's a lot of new revenue coming in. Now, they've got expenses along with that, but you know, you're very unique in that you're kind of landlocked. You know, you don't have a lot of room to grow, whereas a city like Mount Juliet
Sure.
is.
Well, the houses that are being built here now are larger houses and probably greater users, but not significant to the overall effect of what we're talking about. Forest Hills, they've got large homes, but they're sort of locked too.
They don't have their own system, Jim.
I know, but I'm asking, but Buddy's talking about the non-closed systems. How theirs is just part of the water bill. When they get the water bill, it's got a sewer charge to it, right?
Yeah.
But I
Correct.
mean, they would pay the same rate that Metro basically would pay at a Metro.
A lot of the gravity type sewers,
Mhm.
they don't have the maintenance and the capital expense of putting new pumps in every.
Oh, I know that. I
Yeah.
mean, and that goes back to, I guess, a decision that was made back in 1983 to go the direction that we've gone. But Beth, was there other considerations? Do you remember that going into the closed pressure system that we've got versus gravity? And that's not a fair question to ask, but maybe.
I wasn't here then.
Oh, that's a good answer.
Well, but Buddy was, you are more familiar probably because Barge Wagner did the
Yeah,
installation.
Bellmead was one of the very first cities, I guess, in the United States with this pressure system. And best of my recollection, back then, EPA was funding everything.
Yeah, they were.
And if I think I'm correct in saying this, that Bellmead got a 75% grant to put that system in. That's the level of grant money that was available to a lot of people back then. But you got that primarily because it was a new system. It was, you know, nobody's ever done it before. So because of that, not that you were the guinea pig or anything like that, but Metro, I mean, the EPA was encouraging this type of system. And they encouraged it so much that they was going to give you 75% grant money to do this. And so that's where you got it.
Could we ever, not that we would want to, I'm not suggesting this, could we ever revert back to I won't call it a gravity with pressure?
Gravity system.
Yeah.
Yeah, the answer is yes, you can, but the practicality of that may not be wise. It would be a lot more expensive. You'll be
I'm watching Larry up there in my top left-hand corner shaking.
He's
agreeing with
wincing.
you. No, he's agreeing with you.
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting this. I just want to know it. You know but because we've got all this underground stuff that the pipes are there. It's just that the technology is.
Well, the biggest problem is rock.
Rock. Yeah.
Rock. I mean, the main lines of your system now is probably 30 inches in the ground. If you go with a gravity system,
oh, that's okay.
You got to be at least 4 feet in the ground and maybe going deeper down to 20 feet in the ground.
The existing gravity systems that we have are all basically gravity. Is that we've got how many? We still got how many homes, Larry, on gravity?
I've got 281 on.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not, they're excluded from what we're talking about here because they're paying.
They still pay, they pay the same sewer bill as everybody else.
Yeah.
When you say everybody else, you mean,
Well, Bellmead.
Oh, Billy.
oh, they are.
Yeah.
They're not paying what the Metro people, even though they're on a gravity system.
Yeah, they pay this, everybody within our boundaries pays the same fee.
Okay.
Are we having,
But
Larry, are we having any problems, with the gravity systems that we may have to convert over to the, pump system?
No, sir, because the gravity system was put in, a lot of it, our part of it. Now, see, Metro flows through us in numerous places. We only have the 8-inch gravity line. Anything over 8-inch belongs to Metro, and there's quite a bit of it going through us. And so all of our lines are PVC. Our manholes have all been epoxy coated. And everything, we're in good standing and it's watertight. We have it TV inspected every 5 years just to make sure that we don't have any issues. So I don't expect any major cost on that.
You don't have any, just plain septic systems, do we?
There's still a few out there. There are still, not a lot, there's still a few septics, but they pay, there's a few that don't pay sewer. That's because they had a letter from years ago, but almost every one of them pays a sewer bill as well, whether they're on septic or not.
Okay.
And one
Yeah,
thing,
but Buddy, I'm sorry. You want to go ahead? I'm sorry.
well, I was just going to point out that one thing that sets you apart than anybody else of the satellite systems is that you pay according to how much water is used.
Okay, that's what. Okay.
Everybody else that is on gravity system, they have a master meter, and that all the wastewater flow is measured that goes to that, and they have to pay every cubic foot or every gallon that goes through that master meter. And when it rains, you get a lot of rainwater that gets into the system, and they're also having to pay for that. So you've got probably the best deal with Metro than anybody around, that you don't have all of those master meters. Now we'll back up and say that there's another, Ridgetop also has a pressure sewer system,
Yes.
but they are not your kind of pressure sewer. They don't have grinder pumps. They have septic tank effluent pumps. It's a little bit, it's quite a bit different, but they do have infiltration, Larry. You probably get more infiltration than you realize. And hopefully when you do start making some changes within your systems, and I'm not sure what they're going to be looking at, but the quicker that you can move that wastewater out, the less septic it might be. Hopefully that would be a help there too. So
Bob was asking, was there any new substitutes for potassium permanganate? But are there any new technological advances in a closed system that could be not upgraded to, but some kind of retro to some of these things that we're doing that would be helpful? Or you just say keep this sucker running?
well, I think you made one change. The original system started out with Myers pumps.
Yep, Larry knows that one, and so does Bob.
And you're making some changes to E1 pumps, and the reason being, I'm not even sure if E1 pumps existed back in 1983. So, hopefully somebody's making a new mousetrap with a new pump.
Okay, but that's the most improvement you could get is a new, better pump,
Yeah, I mean, if you can get
more
a
reliable pump.
that will last, say, 15 years
Yeah.
instead of 8. You're
Unless
saying,
people mistreat it, which we're used to that, people mistreating their pumps or their grinder systems, I mean.
Pump abuse.
I'm
Yeah.
from the old school, but maybe it's some woke stuff out there. I don't know.
Buddy was mentioning something earlier, and I just wanted to mention this. If we went to a gravity system, and Buddy knows what I'm talking about, because of our topography, you would have to have multiple big lift stations, and you're
Mhm.
about millions of dollars per lift station.
yes.
And then you got to maintain those pumps.
Yeah,
So
you got,
that is really a great deal.
yeah, you would gravity it down to that pump, and then you got to pump it out through a force main, which is another line to tie into Metro system, and it could be a mile away or 2 miles away. You know, it's
And you have odor control there too, right, buddy?
yes, you do.
I
So we
think
still
that
get
the
into
newer-
odor control.
The newer commissioners probably are learning a little bit here, and I think Bob and I are we're getting a review of this, but we appreciate that. And Larry, how many places do we enter the cities?
Oh, my.
Metro system? How many places?
How many did you say, Nathan? 27 points do we tie into Metro.
Wow, okay.
And we only get tested at 3 points. And that is a grace with Metro. I mean, when I first came, we got it down to 5, and now we're down to 3
Is
tests.
that because they trust us or what?
We have a good relationship with Metro as far as our sewer system.
Is that the same 3 pumps every time? Or
That's not
connection?
pumps. This is the
Connections.
the
Outlet.
connections that we tie in.
Yeah.
We have test sites for our odor control for our sulfides,
Yep.
and we have test sites for the sulfides to keep us within the parameters that Metro sets.
So is it the same 3 or 5, or is it just random?
No, same 3 locations every time.
I see.
Oh.
And is
I'm
our
trying to
system,
figure out a way that we can fool the system.
Go ahead, sir.
is our system the most environmentally safe or sensitive? Are they all?
Yes,
I mean-
yes, I would say so. And if you go on research E1 site or any other that have the grinder systems, that is one of the pluses about a grinder system, that they are a sealed system and you have less infiltration. And you will have some exfiltration when you have a homeowner that pump fails or so forth. You may have some at that point, but we don't have the overflows or the issue that Metro has. Those people that live along the creeks over at Westview, they're very aware of when manholes go jumping and when the sewer force, when Metro gets full.
You're a lot more environmentally friendly
Yes, sir.
than a regular conventional system.
But our poop goes into the same Metro system that goes somewhere, so
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
ours may be cleaner poop, but it still gets mixed with bad stuff. Look at Beth, I got her tickles. Anyway. But Larry, Buddy, this has been, I think, really educational for us, and I believe that we got a pretty good handle. Tom, do you think, I called on you, you must have gone to the bathroom or something when I was.
I had to leave for just a minute.
I
Yep,
asked
sorry.
you-
I got back and
I just ask if you being your first time looking at all this and your financially ability looking at this financial stuff, is pretty clear to you?
well, it's my first time to look at this. I just never paid attention to it, but it's interesting. Yes, I still need to understand parts of it, and that wouldn't be accomplished on this meeting, but I'll look through some. I just didn't
I think we're all trying to make sure we understand. I mean, the financial statements are pretty simple, but it's everything else that goes with it. That can get kind of complicated.
Right.
But
It's
you-
just
you
kind of
probably
looking through it makes sense, but some of the stuff I don't know. And of course, over time I'll pick it.
Yeah, it's,
Buddy, we really appreciate what you've done to help us get through this, and we obviously would like to continue the relationship with you. And
the whole staff there is just great to work with, and certainly appreciate what everybody's input to this.
All right. Thank you very much, buddy. Appreciate it.
Larry, you have anything you wanted to close with?
No, sir.
Okay.
I appreciate what Buddy's done and the staff and everybody working together. And I appreciate what the commissioners have done, understanding we're trying to run a system that is hard to run with the funds we have. So an increase is definitely going to help us to do a better job of maintaining the system.
Larry, I'm not trying to pass over to you, but I don't know that I totally have ever realized how much you do with this system, how well you know the system, and we thank you. And I know you've got Nathan up to par almost.
He's
on
behind
this
me.
now. Oh, he turned around. I didn't realize he was behind you.
Yeah.
Okay. But anyway, thanks to both of you guys for what you all do for the city and this system. I know it's It's a big
And I've got
learning
Dylan
curve for
sitting
all
over,
of us.
Dylan sitting over hiding in the corner, listening.
Oh, there he is. I see
So
his
he can,
arm.
so he can learn a
I
little
see
bit
his
about,
hand. Hey,
this
Dylan.
gives him an opportunity to learn a little bit more about
Good.
part of it.
All right. Well, thank you all so much. And I'll let Larry, if you want to sign us off, you can do that. And Lyle will turns the switch.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Buddy,
you.
thanks again.